I'm hitting the scene hotter and fresher than ever, telling all the things about what's clever. Chelsea Bay here to make your day. Got that fresh brews news for y'all. What's up? It's official. We are the Affluence Alliance. So get ready, honey. I'm bringing some heat. As an Indigenous American, I love my country and I love Texas. Evil prevails when good people do nothing. As one who is protected within a private jurisdiction, I don't have part in this televised political theater. Not my circus, not my monkeys. But for those who believe in this current system of government, why are y'all not protesting? Why are y'all not defending the Constitution against the commander-in-chief that y'all voted for, who is shredding it before your very eyes? Is it too much of an inconvenient truth that your decision to put him in office got us here? Do you not see what he is doing? No, you don't, because you don't know the Constitution well enough to speak up for it on his behalf. I get it. Just know that one of the maxims of commercial law says ignorance of the law is no excuse. In Maxims of Law by Richard Anthony, under Crime and Punishment, he says, "He who does not forbid a crime while he may, sanctions it." Another legal maxim, "He who fails to assert his rights has none." Some of my followers may be familiar with that one. I'll be sharing the results of books I've consumed with some metaphysical interpretations and commentary that I'm sure you'll find valuable, so make sure to stick around and turn on notifications. Some people don't want to come to these inconvenient truths at all. I've realized that they're not even capable to hold the cognitive dissonance my information offers their minds. Therefore, they don't even have the frequency to hear me. So for you to hear this message and still be listening this long means that there's a chord that is struck inside of you through heart and soul, which is finding agreement. But now you have to get out of your own way and let your heart speak more than your mind. Or maybe you're just curious. So let me satisfy that curiosity in good faith to assuage that. Here are the top 10 reasons I am apolitical. Okay, it may be 8, it may be 12, depending on how you hear it. Take these offerings as thought exercises where your inner voice can expand your awareness into uncharted historical and biblical territory, which will make you smarter, brighter, quick on your feet in conversation, and will empower your evolution in the highest and best way. Not my circus, not my monkeys, and here's why. The real Constitution is hidden. We have been in an insurgency since 1871, and everyone is playing like everything is hunky-dory. Do you recall the time civics was pulled out of schools? Do you realize the Epstein files revealed Ghislaine Maxwell's father was one of the people in charge of what goes into your school books, your children's school books? Do you realize the same powers that Epstein works for? I say current tense because it's a whole face-off situation. These same powers are throwing him in your face right now since having plastic surgery. Do you see the conflict of interest this current president has in play against society's benefit? Oh, you will before the end of this video. I'm not coming to play. Speaking of society, democracy is demokratia, Greek for power of the people or rule by the people. This is where we get the word democracy from. If we knew what was hidden by those so-called historians, mainly Ghislaine's father being one of the main editors of those books that you considered truthful and factual, you'd understand why civics was taken out of the schools. It was to stifle progress so you wouldn't know what to do when the government implodes on itself like you see happening today. And I don't bat an eye because I realize Donnie is only fulfilling his soul contracts to shake things up, but why aren't your feathers ruffled at all? All this shaking and waking, and not many are writing to their elected officials, nor are they organizing to be the change they wish to see. Well, for the most part. And speaking of what else is hidden, do you know this ain't even 2026? The powers that be, or the powers that was, got us so deep in their illusory projection that we can barely tell time. So we got to flow with the seasons in 10 and 20-year increments to keep up with the law of perpetual transmutation occurring every single day. Speaking of the times and what else is hidden, do you realize that the powers that be manipulated the original calendar, making this new world order that we call falling under a Gregorian calendar? They also changed the sizes of the zodiac. Each one of them is not 30 degrees, but that's what they tell you. Some constellations are bigger than others. So why do we think as a melanated society that it's a good idea to give our children to the oppressor to educate us? The majority is not my jam because I was taught early on in the Helios Biblios, aka the Bible, that narrow is the way and wide is the gate to hell. So whatever all them doing over there, I'm going to look before I leap because my steps are ordained, okay? I'm protecting the grace and power on my life by exacting my purpose carefully, intentionally. Y'all ain't finna trip me up. I done worked too hard. I realize the signs of the time, so if you catch me in these streets, you're going to always see me with some tennis shoes on. If it goes down, I'm ready. Stay ready, so I ain't got to get ready. Not no sandals, flip-flops, especially no flip-flops, no pumps either. Because first of all, I'm tall. I ain't trying to pass you up and mesmerize you all like glamazon. No, man, concern yourself with concerns of yourself. But anyway, in the end times, I'm ready to run. I'm also protecting my feet till I'm 100, so then there's that as well. In my original series entitled If God is So Good, Why Are Black People Doing So Bad? I mentioned that discipline was given to us the wrong way. As melanated children, we most likely got a belt to the ass rather than the belt of truth being belted out from the sounds of our mother and father's correcting voice. Too lazy, too ignorant, your choice. But they pulled out the belt around their waist, and if you're anything like me, that trauma has laid years to waste. But God, because I've been autodidactic in my own right since 2011, since I realized all the lies in my eyes that was going around me, the scales fell. And so I saw God with all my heart, and I drew nigh to thee. And he rewarded me with discernment, and he rewarded me with a work that allows my gift of metacognition or pattern recognition to shine through, introducing the new series brought to you by the Affluence Alliance called The Parallels of the 12. They've been programming us since elementary years. And now it's time to remix the fake passages we had to read aloud in class, the ones we had to memorize to pass the test, the fake constitutional script too, okay? You are the fifth element in your own life. As a resident of this here beautiful Lone Star State, I can say for sure, as a member of the original Republican government for the law of the land and not of the sea, we are all stars in the sky. You are fire, you are earth, you are water and air, and the animating factor of it all. So I stand for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, plus equality in every person, period. I've chosen a private jurisdiction. It is a safe space for Indigenous Americans, and it's my intention to help spread their message of how we as a people have already organized. So for those who are spiritually aligned and check all the boxes with a private jurisdiction and the protection it provides and the camaraderie one can gain by being part of a grounded community that you can contribute to. If you are already applying your will intelligently in life and want to grow with some of the best melanated people I've ever met, then I'll introduce you. In the Maxims of Equity, it says equity will take jurisdiction to avoid a multiplicity of suits. So for anyone who goes to court with a member of the bar, aka a lawyer, barrister, or attorney, you've already shot yourself in the foot. They don't work for you no matter how much you pay them. They are sworn to the crown, so you won't get the right justice for your claim. You may get a settlement, but I ain't in the business of just settling. That's why sister's still single. But this government, with its feudalistic traits and the nepotism that's running rampant, and within Congress wanting acceptance from a crazy lunatic, a corrupt human being, and the population not seeking from their elected state representatives accountability, with these flagrant atrocities.
Binance's plea agreements constituted the largest settlements in history, and the company paid more than $4 billion in fines. And yet, seemingly out of nowhere, Trump gave Zhao a full pardon. And when asked about that just a few days later, his answer wasn't great.
He pled guilty in 2023 to violating anti-money laundering laws.
Right.
The government at the time said that CZ had caused significant harm to U.S. national security, essentially by allowing terrorist groups like Hamas to move millions of dollars around. Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt.
There it is! There it is! Right there, Trump's classic move of claiming he does know someone after it turns out his association with them might be a problem.
Who is going to pull the line to make the train stop? The media is a false projection of reality. Media derives from the Greek meaning the cunning one. According to Wisdom Library Online, Medea served as the strategic intellect and cunning planner, as her function was essential in Jason's quest for the golden fleece to be a success. Do you see where I'm going here? A couple of things. I would go down the rabbit hole of each letter in the months of July through November, spelling out Jason, but that's another matter for another day. So anyway, now that you know the word Medea and Medea sound the same because it points to purposes that parallel, maybe if you're in the mood for a drama, instead you'll pull up Netflix, Harlan Coben's Mystery, instead of some old bickering white people fussing and fighting in front of the public. Get some decorum about yourself. We are gods and goddesses. Sit up straight. The results from the choice Americans made about who they voted into office is their business and their lesson. But we have no more condemnation for those in Christ. So it shouldn't be a projection for those within Christ consciousness. So if it is, check yourself or you wreck yourself. And notice I didn't say Jesus after that. They're playing the audience like a fiddle. The media has been found to scold people and condemn people based on narratives they're pushing you into accepting as real. But you didn't do anything wrong. You were only exposing yourself to projections that you don't belong to.
Solid niggas left, but it's not enough. Turn his TV off, turn his TV off.
I'm saying, it's only a figment of the elite's imagination. I don't require judgment for making a choice, as this is our human right as a human soul. This is our power of will in action. One of your innate 12 powers, which aligns to the 12 cranial nerves, which has its own alignment within the 12 chakra system. Yes, there's 12, not 7. And how it relates to your zodiac sign. So I'm just saying, there's more to what meets the eye. Multiple planes of information to explore that offer different levels of knowledge and wisdom that, in the light of day, empowers one who observes these truths with presence. So in the grand scheme of things, not my monkey, not my circus. Now pick up your copy of The Cheating Vegan, Marry the Parallels of the 12, as it pertains to eating well, to supercharge your fascia, to electrify your nervous system, all the way to peace, and get you some of that good deep sleep, and to regulate your breathing, where you can tackle any issue of love that splatters in your face. Ashe? And be sure to share if it resonates. Did you see the commercial? Our sponsors, okay? Very commercial, right? I know. Now, aside from the projected illusion akin to Plato's cave, have you noticed that J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel were on record that this president wasn't the best bet, but then they suddenly switched sides? Why do you think that was? Since I study the pathology and biology, I would have to say it is psychological manipulation to see a part of yourself okay with changing sides. Seeing it accepted in mainstream makes it okay for you to decide to go to the dark side. But don't fall for the lie. Well, SpaceX went public, making him the first trillionaire after $250 million was given to Trump's campaign by him. So here's your first clue that there's some quid pro quo going on. This is what I do, offer metacognitive analysis for your emotional and logical development. I'm pointing to light in all of this. So my intention is that you become enlightened to the schemes at play as well, so you can govern yourselves accordingly. Did you know it was Peter Thiel and Elon Musk that helped PayPal off the ground, only for it to swell to a multi-million-dollar company? It didn't even do as well as they thought it would. Now let me ask you this. How is the government bailing out the very institutions that creates the chaos in the economy in the first place? We have to rise up and plan a strategic outcome for that not to be the case. When are we going to begin exercising our rights as a people? 2008, people took to the streets because the government bailed out the banks, but the people weren't bailed out, so they let it be known this is not cool.
Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land had created the perfect blueprint to give Peter Thiel's multi-billion-dollar empire of philosophical technology a brand new purpose. He would become obsessed, investing in Curtis Yarvin's software projects and even writing his own essays building on their ideas. And the way that it manifested into his business empire was more extreme than anything he had done before. Because right after, literally months after the Curtis Yarvin-esque blog started gaining traction, came the worst recession since the Great Depression.
Collapsed, the mortgages couldn't be paid, and the banks essentially became insolvent.
The collapse of Bear Stearns was catastrophic. It was a wake-up call to Wall Street. That was a real tell in the unfolding and the house of cards coming crumbling down.
Gigantic banks failed, middle-class families watched their savings vanish, homes were lost, and jobs disappeared.
I think this is the most significant financial crisis in the post-war period.
There are fears the sell-off will continue on Wall Street.
Soaring gas prices, falling home prices, and rising unemployment.
It was a moment that broke Peter Thiel's belief system, when the world's biggest free market, the thing that he believed in more than anything, crashed and had to be saved by the government.
On the second try, the House passes a sprawling $700 billion government rescue of the financial industry, sending it to the president, who will sign it into law.
And yeah, if you're like me and you were 8 years old when this happened, you might not remember how big of a deal that was, but when researchers looked back in 2008, they found that there were more than 10,000 extra suicides than the average should have been during the height of the global financial crisis. It was enough to make Peter Thiel's libertarian dreams die. But in Peter Thiel's eyes, the worst part of it all was something else. The fact that the government had used $500 billion of taxpayer money to bail out the same banks that had caused the problem in the first place. For Peter Thiel, he wasn't just upset about irresponsible government spending. Instead, he was questioning everything he had dedicated his life to so far. For someone who spent his whole life worrying about innovation and technological progress, this type of government action may as well have been the end of the world.
If the greed of these billionaires became the dominant political player, where do you think things will be then? I'll tell you, no more middle class, either upper echelons of society or the lower portions of poverty. I'm bringing to light the black mirrors. And so I believe these billionaires and other members of Congress switched up their political stance because they got their own financial bailout. Cory Booker is on record getting over $120,000 from an Israeli super PAC, which just fuels the corruption I see in the placements of these puppets. More on Israel later. Digital money is an illusion. First of all, Federal Reserve notes is real currency only because the people have bought into it. Nothing backs it, so it's exchanged through pure faith, as blind faith can get. Yet many people now believe in mythical money because some rando says so, who was probably in collusion with Epstein and his minions to allow these anonymous transfers between criminals. Yo, is this where we are as a people? We trust some no-name person with a questionable background to rule our money system? Since it has kind of been that way already with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, it doesn't need to be that way any longer. Rise up! And I refuse to suffer fools. Participating in their dog and pony show with this sort of theater, it disturbs some people. So much you can't even have a regular conversation with some people. The US dollar is an inflated medium of exchange. And here we are experiencing inflation with a propped up and inflated dollar. What is this, the law of correspondence? As above, so below? The released Epstein files exposed how cryptocurrency is where the pedos and the other criminals out there exchange coins over the internet and take money out into the real world from their low down and dirty crimes. It has been said that elected officials sell out their community through the anonymity of these transactions as well. So due to the extensive governmental corruption from wealthy figureheads, I'm out. The major reason for this conclusion is that banking institutions have signed on with this incredible crypto notion. Hey, you remember our coins used to be made of gold? Historically, the government forced the hands of the Americans to turn in all of their silver and gold and take Federal Reserve notes instead. And our ancestors fell for the okie doke, bro. This was generational extortion. And seeing the government bail out banks, as well as the thievery in plain sight from our elected officials, the quid pro quo of I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. And then the government signing on to this foolishness is preposterous, and I refuse to suffer fools. Like I asked you before, when did the oppressor last do something for us? One of my mentors reminded me it's fictional money within a fictional government since 1871's insurgency. I was telling y'all about this in 2020. That entire series is now on my Patreon. Feel free to visit. These laws of economics have Moorish science origins, but it's been inverted and perverted. And yet we're so trusting of them for raising the next generation. Somebody's got to end the madness of us giving up our rights so easily. Some inconvenient truths need to be called out. And hopefully you'll stick around so we can iron out the details and get more clarity in the ways that we can move forward that protects our future and our freedoms. So please share with your tribe if you agree. This government is two wings on the same bird. A bird needs two wings to fly. The importance of moderation and balance to keep the bird flying straight. There's no Democrat or Republican. The only thing existing are these oligarchs that capitalize and monetize us and torture men and women and children worldwide. Furthermore, history has been co-opted by the CIA and the other segments of the alphabet crew within the government, and their tendrils extend to banking and media and the mob and beyond. Stay tuned, I'll tell you how. Since I've explained how we've been in an occupied government since 1871, the political theater operates on misinformation or disinformation or propaganda, or simply put, lies. Lies. This is what they continually do. So who is the crazy one who takes the lie for the truth, then bends to the will of it and call it a democracy? Who among us denies the truth they know is real only to go with the majority because of tradition or peer pressure? Get a backbone. And if you remember etymology, or the origin of words, specifically democracy, meaning power of the people, when will we rise up? The government's main form of control is Christianity. The government's main form of accepted religion is Christianity, which is a psyop. How soon we forget the Christian black codes of 1724. Historically, the powers that be, or the powers that was, used Christianity to manipulate the masses to their ends. And isn't Catholic gatherings called masses? They control narratives by the media and keep their influence through religion, secured through programming and propaganda. Remember the Christian book burning in the 15th century, viewing works by figures like Martin Luther and William Tyndale as dangerous tools of rebellion. The church attempted to suppress their knowledge by creating indexes of banned books and burning thousands of copies because the church feared losing its fundamental control over truth itself. They didn't like the people being able to read and interpret the Bible independently. And check out the hypocrisy. If God didn't give us a spirit of fear, who is running the church running scared? Fables are written as official and factual texts. These fables written in the textbooks of our children do not reflect an accurate depiction of history, and they are not facts. And we had to go through their class, memorize this information to pass. How great is the web we must unweave? We've seen how disinformation and misinformation, lies, is a psychological operation employed by the media to play with your mind and manipulate your emotions, getting us to believe that we have a say through voting when presidents are selected through their bloodlines of their families. That's why the UK has on the books laws having to do with marrying cousins being okay. They lie to us thinking they care about us. Can we band together and have this be the last orange straw and begin to finally see clearly that they always say one thing and do another? It's an illusion of choice. We were promised a Republican form of government in the Constitution. However, the original intention for this country, with its pure intentions 250 years ago, to get from under the rule of the crown, it has been sullied and soiled because members of our Congress gave up and sold out the American people. The right and the left run up deficits and debts that fuel their agenda and their war machine. For instance, this armed conflict, it's not a war. This armed conflict and a war is timed when the oligarchs want to siphon more money from the populace to line their pockets with our labor. I've heard it said silence in the face of injustice is complicity. The Republicans are the bad guy. The Democrats come to balance out the energies, but they are both playing their part in the grander agenda of things. Controlled opposition is their game. They pump up the media with the same stuffy and dusty rhetoric. We keep hearing it from decade after decade. There must be a national call for more civic awareness and less gossip. 20 years of the housewives got the people now wanting to fuss and fight and bicker with each other rather than fix the mess. Who cleaning up the vodka off the floor? And until they publicly admit that the Constitution from 1871 was not the original Constitution, there is no justice, and one plays with illusionary logic and falsified power. Until then. Approximately 3 million Epstein files that have been redacted implicate a lot of the people with global influence, like Cory Booker, Jeff Bezos, Jill Biden, all part of the cover-up. Kash Patel, the FBI director, is lying under oath.
He came out swinging.
Can you say definitively that you have not been intoxicated or absent during your tenure as FBI director?
I can say unequivocally that I never listen to the fake news mafia. And when they get louder, it just means I'm doing my job. This FBI director has been on the job twice as many days as every director before me. What that means is I've taken half as many days off as those before me. What that means is I've taken a third less vacation than those before me. I've never been intoxicated on the job, and that is why we filed a $250 million defamation lawsuit. And any one of you that wants to participate, bring it on. I'll see you in court.
The Treasury Secretary, Howard Lutnick, said he only went to Epstein Island once, but then visited again with his very children. These stories of perversion and corruption, even going back to the Bush era, these prosecutors and law enforcement agents, and even the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he set a record, refusing to swear in Congresswoman Adelita Gradavalia 36 days after she won, just to hold up the voting ceremony. So if they're doing this in our face, what do you think they're doing behind the scenes? So these people can avoid paying for their crimes? This is what you're allowing? I mean, letting these people go free and all these injustices happening on our own land have caused me to separate myself from all that evil, and my creator, source consciousness, Christ consciousness, if you will, led me to a private jurisdiction which came from my seeking the inheritance I knew I had. Because I was born on this land, I've capitalized on the safe haven he led me to. But you as a citizen can rise up, and this can be a reason for us all to come together. So I encourage you to rise up and fight for your rights. To party! To party! Jews run the world. And let me be clear, it's the Zionist Jews of which I speak. They have an agenda that has been in works for centuries. And even to acquire billionaire status, you're playing their game. Any person who speaks against them, it's either economic suicide or political suicide or worse. Because I know what they're capable of, I encourage them to be their best. And from our shared history of oppression and past trauma, I'm compassionate to them. I'm compassionate for them as a people. But I have some notes. Their ideology has Israel being the only chosen children of God and the rest of us as Goy or Gentile. So right off the bat, everyone not in their bloodline is other. That's not the intention of Christ, though. Christ has the idea of unity. Love always wins, not hate or separation, nor condemnation. Now, the exploration of the American Israeli Intelligence Agency shows us all TV and media is controlled by this group of people. You can't get on TV without a Jew approval. We see this messianic ideology executed through territorial maximalism in your mind first, and then also over the land. It has been reported that social media companies and many porn sites are mostly owned by Jews. Historically, geopolitically, after 1967, as reported by Al Jazeera, USA sees Israel having a potent military power and begins investing in that. Are you getting treasonous vibes from that, or is it just me? Then over time, it increasingly becomes more open to the West and becomes an occupied state managing an occupied state. Then Israel consolidated its place within Western ideology by selling the idea these Zionist Jews are part of the white Christian world order. They hyphenated the name. My point is that the Jew has become a westernized construct in a colonialist project called Zionism to dominate the lands of earth, ridding the inhabitants of it in the process. Allegedly. In that, we can see Jewish people are a sort of artificial construct because they're not literally Abraham's descendants. Their ideology is a fiction with scriptural interpretations for their benefit. An artificial construct is seen in the word Judeo-Christian in itself. They originally opposed Christianity because their money lending practices didn't line up with Christian morals. Historically, when the traditional Jews went against their own theology by returning to their homeland before their Messiah returned, this act took on the name Zionism, because Zion is a biblical reference to the land of Israel. Amen. Through the lens of Christ, if given the opportunity to maintain control and power over my own life and destiny, I could see myself doing the same thing they're doing if I had Rothschild money. See the Balfour Declaration. So I ain't mad at them. Be well, my friends. Church and state are separate, but what's happening today? Church and state, as per the Constitution, should be separate. However, why is Marco Rubio visiting the Pope? And furthermore, your prayer life ought to be private. If it was his personal dharma to follow through with a Catholic vow, it shouldn't be publicized in the media. So why the dog and pony show? The separation of church and state is a principle that prevents the government from establishing a religion or favoring one religion over another, ensuring religious freedom for all citizens.
I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no Catholic prelate would tell the president, should he be Catholic, how to act, and no Protestant minister would tell his parishioners for whom to vote, where no church or church school is granted any public funds or political preference, and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source.
This concept was famously articulated by Thomas Jefferson in his letter to the Danbury Baptist Association, where he described it as a wall of separation. This is the First Amendment, you guys.
I created a historic White House faith office in the West Wing, and that's going to be an office that's been very well. I see already you have a lot of people going back and forth, and that's good. That's what we want, to defend and represent people of all faiths and their religious freedoms at home and abroad. You know, they work right out of the White House. They've never done that. That's never been done before. No other president allowed that. I think, you know, they say separation. They say separation between church and state, they told me. I said, all right, let's forget about that for one time. We said, really, the separation? I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. But whether there's separation or not, you guys are in the White House where you should be.
The Supreme Court took prayers out of school because of this First Amendment. But why are our rights constantly being stripped away or violated in some way? Sikhs and Hindus have been attacked just for being who they are, but they have freedoms according to the First Amendment. And this government is going against that. Our government has printed on our currency "In God We Trust," but from analyzing history and the actions of these people that we were told were elected to government, have you ever thought about what God they're speaking of? If God stands for generator, operator, and destroyer, who do you think their God is? I'll let you in on a little something else. CERN has a Hindu deity that is known as a powerful destroyer in front of their very underground facility in Switzerland. It's an intergovernmental entity. So who or what do you think they're worshiping down there? Did you know CERN is also the birthplace of the World Wide Web? It is my observation through actions, accounting records, and in many proprietary ways that I conduct my research behind the scenes is that money is their God. So now they ain't even trying to hide it. And it's not getting religion in my politics is the problem, but getting politics in my religion. He violating the Constitution, yet no one is saying a mumbling word? This separation of church and state is classical liberalist ideology that establishes political order. What is this new faith office the White House has? And what is it about to do with religion now? Is anybody questioning that? Why isn't there a riot on the White House lawn with him mixing church and state instead of the UFC going on?
No, folks, there's something called separation of church and state. One way that churches keep their tax-exempt status is by avoiding direct political endorsements. But here at Eagle Mountain, you see classes aimed at educating their members on how to vote. And Kenneth Copeland himself makes his political leanings pretty clear. Here where he mocks Joe Biden.
The media said Joe Biden's president. Ha 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 ha.
And here where he attends a Trump rally.
I copied his suit.
To some, this raises a fair question. Should the IRS be paying closer attention to this kind of activity?
People urge people to vote and they're training people to properly vote, and then in private, wink wink, as for a certain generally Republican candidate, but not always. They can't go after that particular organization's tax-exempt status unless they actually have film of the pastor saying on film to vote for actually a person.
We are seeing the worship of capital has resulted in our society being sold to the highest bidder. Social media is used to manipulate elections that we've confirmed in the past. Devices and algorithms can be manipulated for tracking, and information has been consolidated into the hands of a select few, namely by Palantir, a company which has Peter Thiel, a billionaire working to cause reality to be conformed to his ideal, was a large investor when Palantir first started out, which allowed several government contracts to be approved to surveil us.
Today is the end of 2025, and Palantir's value has skyrocketed, with the company now being worth well over $400 billion. At the same time, though, the company is more heavily criticized than it ever has been. Even more than enabling potentially questionable police tactics in American cities, Palantir has reached a sky-high valuation by achieving widespread adoption around the world. Within the US federal government, it holds contracts with every branch of the military and every single three-letter security agency. The FBI, CIA, DHS, the Marines, the Air Force, all of these departments are now relying on Palantir to more accurately spy on their targets. And reporting from leaked NSA documents revealed that Palantir's software is also now used to sift through massive amounts of X key score data, essentially being able to track almost everything that typical users do on the internet. One UK intelligence review warned that Palantir are able to view the world's internet traffic completely at will. In Israel, Palantir controversially partnered with the IDF to use AI targeting for adversaries, although the accuracy of their work was highly questioned after over 200 aid workers were killed in Gaza in just a few months in 2024.
So what do you think about the use of artificial intelligence or lavender by the IDF in identifying Hamas targets?
Look, I'm not, without going into all the I'm not on top of all the details of what's going on in Israel because my My bias is to defer to Israel.
Law advocates in the UK have written that Palantir is able to create a 360 profile of individuals and carry out indiscriminate mass surveillance. Most recently, in 2024, they pitched creating an initiative that would link IRS, Social Security, and visa data all in one system, creating a massive database of information about the American people that could be accessed at will by any federal agency. Today, Palantir is also being used in the US to help ICE carry out deportations with a software platform called Immigration OS that tracks immigrants. But whatever it's being used for, the end result is that Palantir is essentially a privatized intelligence agency. And when you combine the size of all the agencies they partner with, they're probably the most powerful one in the world alone.
This is treason on our own land, fully in contrast to the Constitution. Not a mumbling word from the people, though. With capitalism being the god of the government, we're transgressing into the dark ages all over again if y'all let this continue. Y'all, because that's y'all's jurisdiction. Remember, I am party of an Aboriginal form of government. If you're interested, let me know. Additionally, churches are tax havens, and why many appreciate that being the First Amendment of church and state being separated. Now, look at Kenneth Copeland. Now, in my research, I've come across, for some reason, I never had a resonance with him. And after reviewing some footage to get this information for you, I see why. Kenneth Copeland has amassed a large fortune, private jets, a $7 million mansion from the income from his church.
Folks, you should know that on this mega mansion you see, Kenneth Copeland allegedly pays no property tax at all. That's because this house is claimed as a parsonage, which is a property that the church owns and provides for their pastor, which makes sense for most American pastors where the average salary is a modest $52,000 a year, and thereby provides housing for their pastors living a life of sacrifice. But should these tax breaks be used by the ultra-wealthy like Copeland, who for years now has avoided paying what should be a six-figure tax bill?
Creflo Dollar and others preach a prosperity gospel, but I'm still waiting on the testimonies of those parishioners who have benefited not only from their message, but of the tithe. These preachers have launched a pay for pray, offering partnerships and memberships. Not pay for play, but pay for pray. Speaking of pay for play, as a side note, the music industry has extensive mob ties, including Al Capone and Salvatore Luciano, because the speakeasies in the 1920s in New York and Chicago needed a constant talent funneling through their clubs, their underground clubs, to sell their illegal alcohol. Well, the talent or the artists needed to be booked and managed to get them to the underground clubs. So guess who set up that system? MCA Records was established for that. They consolidated so much power from the late 20s through the 60s that they had to be broken up through antitrust laws. Your dear Republican, then Senator Ronald Reagan in 1948 signed a deal with the talent agency MCA, which was captured in the book called Dark Victory. To put it plainly, his signature gave a wider reach through TV and film to MCA. Are you seeing the pattern of hidden interests dating back over 65 years? Y'all do the math. By people y'all voted for. The multiple entanglements by mob money and mob muscle extended far and wide. That brings me to Kanye's Sunday service mania. Kanye referenced Sinatra in his song called Famous, which highlights the parallel of mob ties in the music industry, because that's why Frank was so popular. These two artists both served the same entity. Anyway, he established a church from having been advised by momager Kris Jenner that their church acted as a tax haven. Then here he come with this moment in history called Sunday service. Even showing up at my parents' church, Lakewood. Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I had to see what was going on. Yeah, I was there. But whatever happened to that movement? Pop culture wrote it off, citing his mental incompetence. However, all those acres in Wyoming in his possession makes me wonder if that's classified as a parsonage. So have I proven to you why the tentacles of corruption are so long that your little vote ain't doing nothing? Leave me a message in the comments as to what notes you were able to pick up on this during the episode. Did you get 8? Did you get 10? Or did you get 12? You can see the origins of my psychology from understanding the information in this video. So you'll have an understanding of the information and its interpretation as we go forward. It's this sort of information that has architected my conscious mind into opting out all of that BS. Upon these discoveries over the years, I developed a righteous anger that says, I gotta share the truth so that we can come from under these psyops. Churches have taken the potency out of religion because it puts you in a box. And what's in a box can be controlled. Ask that nigga Jack. And we see the collision of church into state. So that makes the very First Amendment being trampled on underfoot. We couldn't get the first one right. So your USA is in the process of imploding. Someone will have to risk their life and organize a group of people that will risk their lives to change the way things have been going. I call for blessings on their souls in this life and the one to come. We have to change the trajectory of this cruise boat, y'all. The powers that be prefer your attention be entangled and wrapped up in this corporate fiction, in these illusory projects, defending lies, not equipping you with the necessary knowledge to free yourself from their grips. And so that's why I'm here. And if you'll stick around for these lessons I'm bringing through this channel, you'll discover how to tap in and tune up and turn on your own innate powers. That way you can discern your best move going forward. And if you liked any idea I expressed, or if any of the context provided sparked any resonance within your soul, it's only right to press that like. Tell the universe you want more bridges to truth rather than lies of quicksand, okay? But I had to add this to the coffers of the history of this channel. So thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And tell me what resonates in the comments. And I'll see you on the next video. Ciao.